It says live. You can go ahead.
Oh, I thought I was waiting for it to say on air. Sorry. Okay. Hi, I'm Louisa Latela, and welcome to my Love Yourself, Love Your Life show. I am so excited to be with you today and to be part of the Authentic You Media team. In just a few minutes, you'll get to meet Michelle Arbeau, the founder of Authentic You Media Corporation, and quite an amazing and inspiring woman. I am thrilled to have this platform to be able to share the message of love. I just don't think we can ever hear too much about the power to choose to live in the energy of love. It was and always has been my intention to inspire people to fall in love with themselves. It's time for you to celebrate and embrace your magnificence, your beauty, the very essence of who you really are. It's time for you to be excited about you. There's absolutely no reason for you to not love you right here, right now, in this very moment. And what I am talking about here is authentic love. This kind of love does not manifest as boastful or self-righteous or conceited behavior. It is a sacred, honest, humble love that brings into existence kind and compassionate actions towards yourself and others. When you love yourself, you naturally say only kind and loving things to and about yourself. You don't put yourself down. You say thank you to compliments. You set boundaries. When you truly love yourself, you're naturally respectful to others. When you live in love, you feel profound joy and bliss and contentment in your heart. Loving yourself is both peaceful and energizing. And the more you love you, the better you can serve the world. Everything in life becomes brighter, more fulfilling, and more meaningful. It is when you celebrate and embrace your magnificence, your beauty, your essence, that you can more intimately and genuinely celebrate the magnificence, the beauty, and the essence of those around you. Loving you is really the greatest gift you can give to the world. Over the course of the year, you will be receiving lots of tips, tricks, and tools that will empower you to live an authentic, joy-filled life. Many of my guests will be sharing personal stories of how learning to love themselves moved them from a life riddled with depression, anxiety, and often addiction to living a life of authenticity and freedom. I will also be interviewing experts in the fields of medicine, psychology, and metaphysics who discuss how unconditional self-love and compassion directly influence your physical, mental, and emotional well-being. This show, Love Yourself, Love Yourself, Love Yourself, Love Your Life, manifested quite unexpectedly for me, as things do that are divinely guided, at least in my life. I didn't know Michelle Arbeau other than I had been following her on Facebook for a while. I'd always been intrigued by numerology and I liked the vibe she put out, but we never communicated with one another other than maybe liking a post here and there. And then about 6 or 8 months ago, she messaged me and asked if I'd be interested in doing a show with her network. I was hesitant at first because, well, to be honest, like my ego got all in my face. You know, you're going to look like a fool. What do you have to say that already hasn't been said? What about lighting? What about your hair? What if you sound stupid? Blah, 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 right? I have a feeling everyone listening to this has heard that voice once or twice in their lifetime. Then I asked Michelle what it was that made her reach out to me personally to do a show. And she said she saw a banner on my page that said, self-love and compassion, no matter what. She talked about a time in her life when she didn't really love herself, where she was disconnected from her truth, her authentic self. And it wasn't until she learned to love herself, it wasn't until she began to embrace her truth that she was able to experience true happiness. And she felt that my message of self-love and compassion was an important message for people to hear. As she spoke those words, I could feel her deep desire to inspire people to connect with their truth and live their passion. In that moment, I got chills all over my body, and I knew I was meant to be involved with this project. This was so not about me. There was a bigger purpose, and I was just being used as a vessel to share the message of self love and compassion. The truth is, you are perfect in this moment, and we all do the best we can in any given moment. It is time to stop putting yourself down and time to start lifting yourself up. It's time to live a brighter and lighter, happier life. It is time to live in the energy of love. So, with all that being said, it is my great pleasure to welcome celebrity numerologist, best-selling author, inspirational speaker, founder of the Give Joy Now project, and creator of Authentic You Media Corporation and Academy, Michelle Arbeau.
Hi, thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure, and I'm honored to be part of your first show. So that's really, I'm just taken aback by that. But I definitely resonate with what you're saying. You're using love and truth almost in the same way, and that's how I feel. I feel like you can't have truth without love, and you can't have love without truth. And so I really think that self love has a lot to do with finding that truth within and finding that space within yourself that is that authentic self. So that's definitely where I came from. And, I was living for everyone else. I was living for, what do you think I should be doing? What do you think I should be saying? What title do you think I should be going by? And I was always looking outside myself for the answers. And it was really for me to look within and look inside myself for those answers, but I didn't know that at the time. So I was
Right. You really learn to live from the inside out.
Yes, exactly. And, I was a very intellectual person. I always thought things through first before I went to my heart. And rarely did I go to my heart. It was always my head logically thinking things through. And it wasn't until I went here and started to live my life through here that it really started to snowball for me. And that's because when we go here, we can't be anything but truth and self love because it's the heart. And that's really totally what happened. My life went from a 180 shift. I mean, it just totally took a 180. And I really started to love who I was because I was living who I thought my heart wanted me to be.
So
And
how can you explain sort of what happened that got you from your head to your heart? Like what were the steps that took you there? What made it safe for you to live from your heart? What made you take the risk? Because many times when people live in their head, they're afraid of that little voice within. It's like they might feel it or sense like something feels off, but no, it doesn't make sense, it's not logical, I have to do things this way, you're brought up a certain way. What was it for you that got you to take the chance to live in a way that might not be logical?
well, I really hit rock bottom. Like I was bottomed out. I was completely, there was nothing left that I could call happiness. So I really just felt like it's either throw in the towel completely or the only way is up. I'm like at the bottom of the well and all I can see is the light up at the top. And so it was really bottoming out and just like crashing and burning and just saying, I'm not happy. I just can't do this anymore. And that switch happened on its own. It just kind of switched from being more intellectual to being more living through my heart and doing what felt right instead of doing what my head, because it wasn't working. I mean, obviously going through my head wasn't working. So that was put out the window and I started to go with how I felt. And if something felt right or if I had this intuition but my head said no way, that's crazy, I would always go with my heart. And even if it was like jumping on a plane last minute to do like a celebrity interview or something, my husband at the time, he would think I was completely off my rocker jumping on a plane like the next day, but that was me. That was me living through my heart. And my heart just was singing at the time because I was doing
Your
everything
passion.
that I wanted to do. It was amazing. It just, and I do it every day now. I get to get up and I do crazy things. People call me, tell it like it is, Michelle, and all kinds of weird, names. So I have a Korean friend who we're both kind of eccentric people because we live through our heart. We do what we say and we say what we do, and we're very authentic, and we call each other weirdos because a a lot of people don't, necessarily not like the sugarcoating. They want that sugarcoating. They want you to say, "Oh, that looks lovely," and this and that. I'm really upfront and forward with people, and it's not because I'm being rude. It's because I'm saying what my heart is wanting to say. And it's like those.
Saying the truth. You're being authentic. You're saying the truth.
Yes. And it's like those children who are born today who are very authentic naturally. They just, they might say something like, "That haircut looks terrible on you." It's not to say that they're doing it to be out of rudeness and to be a little brat or anything like that. It's just because that's just how they are. They will say, "You're not living your truth," or they'll come out with these tremendous amount of wisdom and authenticity that just blows your mind, and it's amazing. And so when we start to live like these children and start to really take away that sugarcoating and live with each other in a sense of saying what is on our hearts instead of what's in our heads and what we think we should be saying, then
Because we're afraid of what other people might think, and because of who would I be and what are they going to think about me, and what will happen to me? Will I be left alone? And all those other fears.
right, exactly. And I really don't have those fears anymore. I really like to be alone. And I know this sounds really strange, but I don't have a lot of close friends. And I
Mhm.
like it that way. And I really only let into my circle those people who are very authentic. And I have a very low tolerance for negativity or drama or anything like that. It just doesn't jive in my world. And I do a lot of my work and the things that I do by myself because it's, and I always joke I don't work well with others. It's just kind of
Right.
a joke, but it's not that. It's just that there's a very select few people that are doing or living the way that I am living. So it just doesn't resonate. It's like being not quite on the same wavelength, if you know what I mean.
Mhm.
And that's just how it works. I mean, I like it that way. I mean, people say to me, "Aren't you lonely?" Or "Aren't you?" No, I'm not. There's lots of people who have 30, 40, 50 friends that they hang out with, and that's okay. I mean, that's their way. But I just have a very select few people that I share myself with, and that's the way I like it.
And that is part of loving yourself, like being very selective about the energies that you let into your world, the energies that you open yourself up to, and
Hmm.
trusting that for yourself. And I think that's really powerful. And that's a powerful lesson. One of the things in one of your books, can you see that? I don't know. The energy of words. One of the stories in here, if you wouldn't mind talking about it, that I found really powerful, that I have shared with so many of my clients, is it's here where you talk about one day you were just, it seemingly looked like everything in your life was good, but you were so unhappy. And you were just like, I'm hurting. I'm in so much pain. I'm hurting. And can you talk about that story, about what happened, about um, you're not hurting, you're healing?
Yeah, I just felt like everything was good on the outside. I mean, I was doing my work and I was doing everything I thought I was supposed to be doing, and I was being successful doing it. And I was still feeling like there was something missing, a gap, or totally something that was empty inside. And I just, like you said, I was hurting, and I felt as though I can't go on like this. I can't keep living like this. And it was that whole rock bottom thing that I was talking about too, where I sold my house, I sold everything. I completely shed myself of even my website. And this is where the magical stuff started to happen. I don't know what story you're referring to exactly, but this is where the magic started to happen for me, is when I really shed everything in my life. I just totally said, you know what? I'm going to do a clean slate because what I have right now is not working. it's hurting me because I'm living someone else's truth. And it wasn't my truth, it was someone else's truth. And so I scratched everything, even my website. So no one really knew who I was or what I was anymore. I mean, I was like completely down, and kind of hidden away from society. And so I sold everything, including my house. And I remember sitting one day, just sitting with a couple of packed boxes by my feet and just thinking, what have I done? I've sold every single thing except for, the shirt, the clothes that we had and the pictures, the personal things. And we sold everything else just to move quickly and move on. So we had just like a 5x8 trailer that we used to take this little bit of stuff that we had left all the way across the country. And we stopped in Calgary. And I was there only about, I don't know, 2 weeks, maybe three. And CTV called me out of the blue. I have no idea to this day how they found me. And I don't want to know. I've had an opportunity to ask the producers, but I've never really asked them how they found me. Because I feel like it's just like a, I don't know, a magical secret or something.
Mm-hmm.
They called me and they said, we'd love you to be a guest on the show. We know you're a numerologist. And first of all, how did they know I was there? And second of all, how did they know I was a numerologist? Because I could have stopped anywhere, and I stopped in Calgary, and I had a friend there. So we decided to stop there for a bit and see if we liked it. And so it snowballed from there. I totally had to pick up it was like time to reinvent myself. And that was the time. It was like, okay, they want me to come on as a numerologist, but I wasn't a numerologist anymore because I had packed that all in. I had, thrown in the towel and I was done with it. And they brought it back full circle again. It was the numerology, the numbers, and I couldn't let it go. And so it was the time to reinvent the wheel. And that's when I started to go by celebrity numerologist because I had some celebrity clients at the time. And I thought, I'm going to own this. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to own it and I'm going to be who it is that I'm supposed to be with it. And a lot of people gave me flack about using the word celebrity, that it was a little bit too vain or, shallow. And I said, that's not what it's about. It's about the fact that I earned those stripes. I got those celebrity interviews, and I think that I was able to use those in my title. And so I came on as a celebrity numerologist on this show, and then I got breakfast television. I got City TV. I got CTV Morning Live again and again. They kept having me on as a guest, and all this media was coming at me, and it just completely, utterly snowballed. I mean, my books came out back to back within a month of each other.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I ended up writing those books actually back to back because I wrote one of my books and I got a publisher. And then, of course, then every agent wants to work with you once you get a publisher. So then I got an agent, and the agent said, well, how soon can you have the second book done? And I said, I don't know, because I don't have the first one done yet. So I'd actually sold the first book with a book proposal. So I had like 3 or 4 chapters done. So I had to write them back to back simultaneously. And so they ended up getting in alignment with the publication dates about a month apart. One was November 11th, 11/11,
11, right?
and one was December 8th. So it was quite, it just was like the snowball was rolling down the hill and I couldn't stop it. And I loved every
And
minute
you
of
kept
it.
following the flow. It's like you just kept following it, following your bliss, following the flow.
One word that kept coming up was authentic, or authenticity, and being authentic. And that's where Authentic You Media was born, is that I was talking about self-love and the truth, which is authenticity. They're both the same. They're synonymous with each other. And
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
think the Authentic You Media came about because of the fact that I was starting to self-love, and I thought, this is the way to go. This is the way to live, is to live authentically. And if you can't live authentically, then you're not really living. And so it just was one of those projects that just came to me in a download. It was like Authentic Media, Authentic. I saw the whole thing. I saw, I didn't do all the branches at once, but I saw the whole thing. and I knew where I was going with it, and I knew it was part of my plan and purpose.
Yeah, I mean, you can just definitely feel your passion about it, and it's so true. It's like if you're not authentic, you're not living. How many people live their life at the end of their life? They're like, "Wow, wish I had done this, wish I had done that, wish I had traveled more, wish I had loved more, wish I had." And it's like if you listen to your heart, if you live from the inside out, life becomes magical. You
It
know,
does.
you connect with spirit, and the truth is, if you stop and listen, it's like you'll always know the next right thing to do. You'll always know the next thing to do that will support your highest good, that will bring you joy. The problem is we don't always want to know what we know.
That's true. And sometimes the truth hurts. You know, that's
Yeah.
um, but it is what it is. And I mean, I would never trade that for the world. I would never go back to living through my heart or my head. I would always live through my heart, and if that means living and learning or hindsight learning, then that's what it means. But most of the time, your heart is always right. It seems illogical at the time, but when you're going through the process of doing whatever it is that your heart is telling you to do, it always ends up for the highest good. It's like at the time it might seem backwards and mixed and upside down and sideways, but in the end, it always turns out to be the best thing for you and for the other people involved. So when I do something that feels like, well, wait a second, maybe I did take a wrong turn, or maybe I did do something that wasn't the right way, and then I stop myself and I think, you know what, this is going to turn out okay. This is going to be fine, and I know that because I've lived it many times, and I know that in the end, it always works out.
And I think that's what happens. The more you follow that little voice on the inside, the more you learn to love you, the more you learn to trust you, you start to have more and more positive experiences with it. And there's a freedom that comes with that, because it's like once you start to live from the inside out and once you start to trust that voice, you know that you'll always be guided. And so there's a freedom. It's like you're not depending on the outside world to support you or for your safety. It's because you trust yourself. You start to live and trust yourself and just know that you'll always know the next right thing to do. And there is such a freedom and a confidence that comes with that, don't you think?
Absolutely. And that's exactly right. I mean, when we live through our head, we don't have that freedom. We don't have that energy that says we know what the next step is. And even if we don't know what the next step is when we live through our heart, we just have this knowing, this sense of everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to turn out for the highest good. We don't have that when we go through our head. And so it's just complete freedom to do what you want based on how you feel. And you just know that it's the right way. It's 99.999% of the time it's the right way, and when the other percentage isn't the right way, it's because you were up here somewhere along
Right. And there's a little lesson in there for you to learn, some growth, you
the
know.
way.
The one thing um, in this part of your book where you said, uh, you were talking about how um, you felt angels around you. You felt like you were enveloped by these spiritual beings. Do you remember that part in the book here where you talked about that?
In your
Um,
experience.
you said that you're healing. I spoke again. You said, if I'm not healing, I can't do it alone. At that very moment, I raised my hands towards the ceiling, inviting anyone who might help me. What happened next was the most tangible spiritual experience I've ever known. Anything that had happened in my childhood paled by comparison. What was conveyed to me in milliseconds was unlike anything I'd ever felt before. I was tingly from head to toe. It was the consummate spiritual experience in one enormous flash of light. I felt the room fill up all around me with an intense love, pure and unconditional. And then I saw where the voice had come from. Standing around me in my bedroom was a group of breathtaking angels. Do you remember that, or that?
Absolutely. And I've had a couple of experiences with angels. I had a near-death experience where I had angelic presence, and that I think that was my breaking point where everything really did shift completely for me. Is that it was confirmation. Those angels, that angelic feeling, and I'd had it before because I'd had a near-death experience where that warmth, that glow, that love, that and it is love. You know, it's completely, if you could experience what love feels like, true, authentic love, it is warmth. It's almost like being in sunshine. And you know how
Right.
when you don't feel well, or you know, if you're, even if you have the flu, sometimes you just want to go outside and sit in the sun, you know, and just
Right.
bask in the sun, and it just makes you feel so good. And that's the whole feeling. It was like the room filled up with self-love. It was just amazing. And because the angels, of course, are the embodiment of self-love, and so they were expressing this upon me, and I just felt like that was the pivotal moment, the pivotal point where I couldn't turn back, and I had to start living through what my heart and soul wanted me to do.
So, the other thing in that experience there, you were talking about how you said, I'm hurting," and they said, "You're not hurting, you're healing." And that, I think the thing that was so powerful for me when I was reading that is they're the two things that I believe very strongly, is that we have connection, we have guides, we have angels, we have whatever you want to call them, we have um, spiritual beings that want to help us and are there for us, and all we need to do is ask, and they'll be there. And the other part of it was, you're not hurting, you're healing. And when you heard that, it felt like there was a huge shift for you. And I think that's so important, because one of the things I like to talk about all the time is, when you're in pain, it's asking the question, how can I see this differently? How can I look at this from a different way? And that just seemed to embody and encapsulate everything. Um, all stress is created from resisting what is. So, what am I doing here that's creating this pain? And how can I see this differently? And that just sort of embodied that whole experience right there. That page captured that whole essence of that, which is so powerful. And I so appreciate that you wrote that, because
You're welcome. Well, you know, I think what you're getting at is that when they said that to me, or when I heard that in my head, or wherever that small voice is inside, they were speaking to me in a sense of like those lessons you're talking about. You know, I was living through my head for so long, and it was the lesson that I was healing from, and I was moving on to the next stage. So I was having this lesson, I was healing, and moving on to this next stage of living through my authenticity and self love. So I actually, there's a really great. I don't think I put it in the book, but I had psoriasis for many years. I remember when I was 13 years old and I had just hit puberty, I was completely covered in psoriasis. Like I was head to toe. I looked like a leper. I looked like someone had leprosy. And it was one of the worst cases that the dermatologist had ever seen. And I carried that with me through my teenage years and all the way up and through my mid 20s. And until that moment happened, until I started to switch over and start living through, I have no psoriasis anymore to this day. I have nothing. And it's because if you look at Louise Hay's book, for example, psoriasis means hating yourself, not loving yourself. And voila, I started to love myself and I got rid of the psoriasis.
yeah, that makes so much sense. It's so cool. So cool. Well, I just think you're such a gift to this world. And I just think it's wonderful that you've created this Authentic You Media, the whole corporation, the whole, you have radio, you have TV. And the Give Joy Now project?
The Give Joy Now project is kind of on hold right now. We had a dealership lend us a vehicle that it was called the Joy Jeep. And that was another download for me. It was like literally Joy Gen, Joy Jeep, Joy Journey, and it all just kind of came to me at once. And we labeled up this big Jeep, this big Wrangler, and I went across the country with that and gave out stones. And the little stones had a number on them, and on the other side, just the Give Joy Now project. And each stone with each number that each person received was meant to, for them to do one random act of kindness for someone else and then pass on the stone to someone else. And so they would log the stories on the website based on the numbers. And so I'm looking to do that again. I really would love to do that in the US. I think it's really needed, especially since the government change and all the things that are happening right now. And I think the joy and that all of that is much needed right now. So I'm looking to pick that back up and maybe get another sponsor and do another Joy Jeep.
Awesome. Awesome. So now if people want to learn about your numerology or take a course, where can they find you? What can they?
They can find me on michellearbeau.com, and it's Michelle with two L's. And Arbeau is spelled the French Canadian way, which is ARBEAU.com. And I'm always on social media under Celebrity Numerologist Michelle Arbeau. And I think Twitter is just Michelle Arbeau. Instagram is just Michelle Arbeau. I make it really easy for you to connect with me because I love to hear stories from people. I love to hear from people. It's not about the money. It's not about, there's a lot of people out there that won't even talk to someone just because they're not making money from it. You could send me a message. I'd love to hear from people. I'd love to hear those feel-good stories, those things that, you might have heard me on the show and decided that you want to reach out to me because you've had a similar story. I would love to hear it. So just don't be shy. I'm really down to earth and really grounded.
You're authentic. You are your truth. You're who you are in each moment. What you see is what you get, right?
That's right. Exactly.
So, okay. All right, great. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being my first interview. I look forward to working more with you and with the Authentic You Media team. Okay. And next, so I'm not quite sure. We don't have this quite set up yet exactly. We've had some issues kind of getting this whole thing, figuring out my schedule and that sort of thing. I do have some people lined up that are going to be on. Dr. Kevin Garina, who's a chiropractor, Reiki master, nutritionist, and wellness coach, and psychic medium Tracy Farquhar, who's got a book coming out in May that she co-authored with Mike Dooley. He's a New York Times bestselling author, and she channeled these entities called Frank, much like Abraham Hicks, much like Esther Hicks. So I'm excited to interview her and to share with your audience what she has learned from Frank. So those shows will be coming up. But my website, I think it's kind of interesting that my website crashed right before the show. So I'm just assuming that means that there's a lot of energy with this, and it's going to build a lot of momentum. So people can check on, I guess, the Authentic You Media website to find out, or can go to my Facebook page, Louisa Latela, to find out when this will air and when the subsequent shows will air, right?
That's right. Yes, you can go to Authentic You Media, and if you go under, AuthenticUTV.com, and go to Louisa's page, and you can see her upcoming schedule. So it's very easy to do. It's very easy to find, and you can click on the link and set your reminder, and it will give you a reminder a week before, a day before, and an hour before the show, so you won't miss it. And it's always recorded, so it's going to be an archive show. So if you miss it, you can still watch it in the archives.
Okay. All right, great. All right, great. And so in the meantime, what I would like people to remember is to pay attention to the way that you speak to and about yourself, and to consciously choose to say only kind and loving things to and about you. So thank you all for joining me today. Thank you, Michelle. And I want everyone to remember to live in the energy of love, because when you live in love, all is well. Take care.